Hello, everyone.
Ew.
Happy New Year. Even though it is, it's January 4th. Is that the
Yeah,
date?
it's still early. It's still early.
Well, I don't know. Have you ever seen that Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where it's a great show, but it's like, when do you cut off saying Happy New Year? It's like, all right, it's been 7 days, like we're done now. So
You know what? I'll probably say it like at the end of January, thinking we're only a couple of days into January. Like that's how it goes. I just feel like the days fly by and the months fly by. So I feel like I could be saying it. It could be like January 30th or something, and I'll be thinking that it just happened. So
And maybe I'll keep saying that because I just cannot believe that it is January 4th at this point.
yeah.
But we flew through the holiday season. We had New Year's Eve. We rang in the new year. Katie and I hope that you guys rang in the new year healthy, happy, fun, with family, with friends, and had a great time. So we are here. It is January 4th. It is 2023, and we are on episode 235. So thank you guys for coming into the new year with us. And as always, we're delivering you football, housewives, great content in regards to all of those things. So, to kick off this episode into the new year, we're going to answer some questions that you guys had sent in for us. So, we got a lot of great questions. 4 of them, we're going to answer live here. If you guys are watching live right now, obviously on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, give us your answers to these questions as well, or send along any new question you may have. So, first question we got: why are we living in a world where Andrew Thomas is not a Pro Bowler? So I'll actually tell you, our friend Sam Prince actually sent in this question
Good
for us.
question. Thank you,
So
Sam.
yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so Katie,
Yeah,
why are we living in this world?
we talked about it last week, and it wasn't like we didn't make it our get it off our chest, but it definitely could have been. We agreed it could have been our joint get it off our chest. Obviously, we feel like Andrew Thomas was one of the biggest Pro Bowl snubs out there. That ties into last week's episode when we talked about Pro Bowl snubs. And you know what? I'm disappointed for him because I want him to get the recognition, but it's like whatever. Keep doing what you're doing, Andrew Thomas. Like it's gonna come. You're a great young player. Certainly Giants fans recognize you, and I think we hold him in such a high regard now because, like we said, it's been years and years and years since we've had a really solid offensive lineman. And look at how many we've drafted. It's not like we haven't recognized the problem and been out there trying to draft guys to clean it up. Andrew Thomas has been the best one for us. He's been that best offensive lineman draft pick. And you know what? Quietly put your head down and do the work. And he's gonna. And yes, I would like him to get that recognition. But again, his teammates definitely recognize it. His coaches definitely do. The Giants fan base definitely does. It's gonna come with time. And hopefully next season, he could have had it the last 2 years. So he's been great. We love you, Andrew Thomas. We recognize you. You're a Pro Bowler in our eyes.
100%. Yeah. And this line where it's tremendously better, but we're still actually tweaking it game after game. We are rotating some guys, still looking at things. You look at our rookie, Evan Neal, he's making some mistakes week after week that they're trying to fix. Andrew Thomas right now is that solid player for us. He's doing everything, and he's been almost perfect. I'd say he's like 99% on the season, and he's doing his job. He's coming in, and we're just seeing, and I see tremendous improvement with him too. I mean, his rookie season, Katie, everyone was ready to ship him back to Georgia. Everyone was ready to go. We've seen tremendous improvement. I think he really is that shining star on that line. And if we're turning in that direction where we're bringing guys in and we're literally molding them like we did with him, we're going to have that Super Bowl line that we've seen in the past.
Yeah. Well, we're going to mold it around Andrew Thomas.
We have to.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. Rookie season, it was kind of dicey, and people were like, "What did we do?" And you know what? It's been a little bit dicey with Evan Neal, but let's let him find his groove. Let's let him be a consistent NFL starter, and look what can happen. So, it's definitely not a perfect offensive line, but Andrew Thomas is the bright spot of it. So
absolutely. All right. Question number 2. We're going to keep this going with the Giants here. What team do the Giants match up best against in the playoffs?
I think at this point, and hey, I could be wrong. It's like so crazy out there, the playoff picture right now. But I think it could maybe only be like San Fran or Minnesota at this point. And I gotta say,
I think those are the only 2 teams in the first round. We could obviously play everyone.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the first round. That's all I'm looking at. So I'm gonna say I think I would feel substantially more confident going against the Minnesota Vikings versus the 49ers, especially because we just recently saw the Vikings almost won that game. I feel like the Vikings have been a little bit like the Dallas Cowboys this season, where like they've got this beautiful record, but they've had some really weird games. Yes, a beautiful record with a lot of wins, but a lot of those wins were like big time question marks where they had to have the biggest comeback of the NFL history. And San Fran, they just scare me on both sides of the ball. I mean, their weapons are unbelievable. So I don't think anybody wants to see San Fran, to tell you the truth. You know, they might not end up the 1 or 2 seed, but they are 1-2 seed caliber. So I'd rather play against the Minnesota Vikings. And again, I'm just looking at our first round potential matchup there.
Yeah, I'd rather see the Vikings as well. A lot of what you had said, of course, but San Francisco, we've actually seen them a lot in the playoff picture over the last couple of years. And they're a team where they win round after round and they get better. It's scary to see them in the playoffs. They're a playoff potential team always. You see teams like Dallas go to the playoffs and the lights turn off and you don't know what's going on there. San Francisco is the complete opposite, I feel. They win that first game, and you don't want to keep seeing them. So I would never want to see them in the first round because they are that lightning strike in the first round, and they're ready to move on. Their defense terrifies me. Our offense we've gotten this far. I don't even know with, what Daniel Jones has been able to do with the weapons around him. We're getting crafty. We're getting a little kind of fancy with certain things that we're doing. We're making plays, but against a defense like that, I don't know if it's sustainable, kind of what we're trying to do. I love our defense. I think we could, do big things against the Niners. I don't think it'll take it to the fourth quarter to win when the clock strikes 0. That's where my concern comes. But with Minnesota, and I want that revenge game, Katie, so badly. That was a game. We were there. We were in it.
Well, Giants fans, I'm going to give you like a little baby spark of hope. I think a lot of us are hoping to go against Minnesota over San Fran. If we do end up playing San Fran, as much as I love their defense, I think season after season, they've struggled with stopping rushing quarterbacks.
Okay.
If we play San Fran, we really have to factor in and we really have to game plan for DJ running the ball because I think we can have success with that. So if it happens to be San Fran, I would say look for a run heavy game from Daniel Jones.
And that's fine. He was Danny Legs last weekend. So let's give me those legs again, boy. He was
time it up, baby.
All righty. We're actually keeping it back with the Giants here. Okay. So, we're talking about the regular season right now. So who are your regular season MVPs for offense and defense on the Giants?
Okay. I'll start with defense. Actually, I'll just go ahead and tell you, and this is, there are options here. But I am actually going with our 2 Pro Bowlers in Saquon Barkley and Dexter Lawrence. So on the defensive side of the ball, I believe that Dexter Lawrence has not only been our best defensive player this season, I think he's been one of the best defensive tackles across the board in the National Football League this year. He's had an incredible season. Love what he's doing. And then Saquon Barkley, I would definitely say more so in the first half of the season, where our first half of the season record was better than our second half.
Right.
I would say we don't win a lot of those games without Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, it's fair.
And then I want to give the honorable mention, though, to Andrew Thomas. Saquon Barkley cannot have the type of season he's having without a guy like Andrew Thomas. Daniel Jones can't have the success that he has running the football without a guy like Andrew Thomas. He's definitely my honorable mention, but I think Saquon has been the heartbeat of the Giants offense, and definitely in that first half of the season, like he was dominating. And a lot of those wins we got in the first half, we were barely beating teams. We were winning the fourth quarter, and fourth quarter, it was all Saquon. So I got to give it to him.
Yeah. So my offensive MVP, I'm going to give it to Daniel Jones. I am so impressed with what I've seen from him this season. I think he's truly proven himself a spot on the roster for us coming into next year. He's definitely earning a contract with the New York Giants. I think what impresses me the most is I just said it 5 seconds ago at the other question, is how much he's been able to do with so little around him. And I'm not just talking wide receivers or a rookie tight end who sat out for a little bit because he got his eyeball ripped out, or just Saquon Barkley and, kind of Matt Breida coming in at times there. We're still, I had mentioned earlier, we're still fixing the offensive line. There's some great, some solid, spots there, but we're still fixing it. So Daniel Jones has really taken this team, I think, this season and bringing them to spots that we could have never imagined. I think that he's shown true leadership. He's taken games into his own hands when he needs to, and that completely mirrors Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, what we're seeing from top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Daniel Jones is doing what we're seeing from them. So I can't wait to give the kid more. And I'm just so proud of him this season. So I got to give him the MVP there. And then defensively, going with our Pro Bowler too, Dexter Lawrence. He is all over the place. I really love our defense this year. Nothing makes me more excited than a really solid defense up and down the field. So we've got some injuries. Maybe they'll be back by week, 1 for playoffs. So we'll see about that. But I love the defense and I love everything Dexter Lawrence is doing.
Absolutely.
All right. Final question. Still talking about playoffs here. Okay. Which teams do you least want to see make the playoffs in the last spot? So we've got a handful of teams in the AFC. And we've got 3 in the NFC. So
yeah,
I've got them up in front of me. I know you do too. Yep. Kind of who are you not wanting to see kind of in the playoffs?
Well, yeah, I'll give one from each side. So NFC, we've still got Green Bay, Detroit, and Seattle fighting for spots. I feel like this should be obvious. Screw Green Bay.
I don't want
honestly, nobody likes you. Nobody wants to see you there.
No.
Detroit, I think everyone collectively would be good for them. That's awesome. I think everybody would be excited and happy for the Detroit Lions to make the playoffs. I think the Seattle Seahawks, with the story of Geno Smith, by all means, good for them as well. Get Aaron. Don't let Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, please. Please
don't.
AFC side, we've got New England, Miami, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and Tennessee. Honestly, none of these teams really bother me, but I feel like Pittsburgh needs to experience what it's like not making the playoffs. And I said it.
I'm picking them too.
It was one of my bold predictions at the beginning of the season that for the first time in the history of those 4 teams being in the AFC North, that Pittsburgh was going to finish in 4th place. And you know what? We've all had to experience misery, every fan base. You've never finished in 4th place in your division. You need to kind of understand what it's like to lose as well and not make playoffs year after year. And so I'm going to kick Pittsburgh out of this mix.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I also too, I look at it and I'm kind of who doesn't really deserve it? They've kind of gotten lucky the past couple games. I feel I think the Titans are good, even though they've been making some stupid decisions lately. Miami's obviously a powerhouse. Jacksonville, where are they coming from?
I want to see if you're going to ask me who do I want out of all these teams to make it, I'm dying to see Jacksonville make the playoffs.
Yeah, Jacksonville, prove me wrong. I called you the worst team coming into this season, and I stuck with that. Even when Houston was still the worst, I was putting you there. So prove me wrong. That's fine. Well, great questions. Obviously, we're clearly seeing a pattern here as we enter playoff season. We had our Pro Bowl selection, so we're getting some questions, as it's a very exciting time as Giants fans, but obviously we're getting questions across the board for all different teams, all different types of scenarios. So if you are watching live, if you have anything that pops up, definitely let us know. Let us know your thoughts. So yeah, obviously we wanted to start off our show with questions just to kind of keep things a little bit lighthearted. As you guys have all known, earlier this week on, Monday Night Football, what, everyone presumed is one of the best games of this season. Super excited. Unfortunately, did end within the first quarter after Damar Hamlin of the Buffalo Bills, super freak just accident, unfortunately gets hit, goes into cardiac arrest on the field. Just really, really horrific scene. Katie, I know the two of us were watching the game live and tuning into Twitter and looking for updates and getting everything in real time, us texting each other. It was for me, like a 45-minute span of just like mouth open, not like knowing anything that could come out of my mouth. Like I couldn't even put words out there. Like texting you was easy, but I was sitting on the couch with my boyfriend. I couldn't even communicate to him because I had no idea what I just watched, what I was seeing on my phone. Like just really, really awful to see. So, obviously we were going to bring this up tonight. We are a football podcast. You can't, beat around the bush. You can't not mention it. We are extremely, our thoughts and prayers are with him and his entire family, the entire Buffalo Bills organization. We're with the Bengals as well, obviously. All of them, their fans, everything. Anyone involved in this, the entire NFL community. We are here and we stand by everything that has been done this week in regards to the game, everything that happened that night. I do personally, Katie, want to shout out just everyone involved in, getting him to the hospital, the field personnel helping him, working with him, everyone at that hospital, the NFL as an organization, the Bengals organization, the Buffalo organization coming together, making a decision on things. The commentators that night, I watch them. You watch Adam Schefter, you watch Booger, you watch the on-field reporters. Mm-hmm. No one's prepared for that situation. Right. I think everyone handled it spectacularly. Yeah. No one is given the handbook on how to handle something like that. And, the latest update is that, he's still in the ICU in critical condition, but there is signs of improvement. So if that on-field personnel and getting medical attention to this, young player immediately is going to save his life, I got to just give my hats off to every person involved from start to finish there.
Yeah. Yep. Everybody has given him the best chance to overcome this.
Yeah.
And we hope that he does. And obviously extremely scary. And like you said, our thoughts and prayers are with his family and everybody that's involved.
Absolutely. So obviously just stay tuned to our social media platforms. Stay tuned to your own. Stuff is coming out. I would say like today, stuff was coming out like every 4 hours. So we're not getting much, but just definitely stay tuned to that. But yeah, the more we know, the more you guys will know. So
absolutely. Well, let's look ahead. We are going into the final week of the regular season.
I don't know. It just started.
I don't know, but I got to tell you, I'm ready for playoff football.
I am too.
Now even more so with the New York Giants going to be involved in it. I am ready for my January, like my Saturdays and my Sundays to just be playoff football. I'm all here for it. But let's talk about week 18 playoff clinching scenarios. And you guys, it does get very complicated. So what I'm going to say to you, what the advice I'm going to give is if your team is in it, just figure out what your team needs to do. If you're doing it for, week 18, I'm going to be honest, is my least favorite week to do picks because you don't know who's going to be playing their starters, who might be resting, who's going to be giving it 100%. So I would just say also pay attention if you're like in a pick'em league or a survivor league to make sure, you understand the scenarios of who may or may not be playing at, like I said, 100%. So in the AFC, we still have the number 1 seed up for grabs. KC will clinch it with a win and a Buffalo loss or 2 Buffalo losses. We don't know if they're going to replay this game against Cincinnati at this point. We just don't. But they can also do it with a Cincinnati loss. Buffalo can clinch that number 1 seed with 2 wins or a win at Cincinnati and a Kansas City loss or a win versus New England, and Kansas City and Cincinnati both lose in week 18. Cincinnati still has a shot to clinch the number 1 seed with 2 wins. Again, we don't know if they're going to replay that Buffalo game, and a Kansas City loss. The AFC South, this got flexed to a Saturday night game, probably one of the most exciting games of the weekend. Win and you're in. The AFC South title is up for grabs. Jacksonville versus Tennessee. Whoever wins will crown that division title. The AFC North, Cincinnati, that's still up for grabs too, by the way. Cincinnati, either a win or a tie versus Buffalo or a win versus Baltimore. They will crown themselves the champions of the AFC North. The number 7 seed, it gets crazy, but we have New England can get it with a win at Buffalo or a Miami loss and a Pittsburgh loss and a Jacksonville win. Miami can get it with a win and a New England loss. That's pretty clear cut. Pittsburgh can get it with a win, and Miami and New England would both have to lose. And Jacksonville can still get it with a loss against Tennessee, but then they also need losses from Miami, New England, and Pittsburgh. So Jacksonville, just win and get in, baby. Just win and get in.
That's it. That's all you gotta do.
Okay, NFC, a little less crazy. The number 1 seed, shockingly, this is still up for grabs. The number 1 seed, Philadelphia will get it with a win or a tie against the Giants, plus Dallas with a loss and a tie, and San Fran a loss and a tie. San Fran can get that number 1 seed with a win and a Philly loss. So San Fran is rooting for the Giants this weekend.
Thank you.
Dallas can get the number 1 seed with a win and a Philly loss and a San Fran loss or tie. The NFC East is obviously still up for grabs because Philly and Dallas are both still fighting for the number 1 seed. So Philly can get it with a win or a Dallas loss, and Dallas can get it with a win or a Philly loss. And then the number 7 seed, most clear cut is Green Bay, win, you get in.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've also got Detroit. They can get it with a win and a Seattle loss / tie, and then some other kind of funky scenarios. And then Seattle could get it with a win and a Green Bay loss / tie, and other funky scenarios there too. So Green Bay definitely has the highest percentage.
Right.
But if they lose, this is gonna be up for grabs. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I remember, I forget obviously the Giants haven't been in the playoffs in a really long time. I forget, it was probably maybe right before that one time we were in it. So maybe 2014 or something. I do remember we needed all those funky scenarios and we won. I remember I was at MetLife. We had won. And so the game was over. And as everyone's leaving the stadium on those big jumbotrons, as you leave, they had 4 games on the screen because we needed those 4 scenarios. We ended up not making the playoffs that year, but it is so awful to be in that scenario last week. Cause it's cool. Your team just won and that's one of the things you need, but you also need a loss in this category, win over here, things like that. And so you spend the rest of your afternoon just hoping and praying. And
you want to find yourself in a situation where it's winning in, handle your business and get to the playoffs. You don't want to depend on other teams winning or losing. You just want to handle business yourself and get there. Thank God the Giants wrapped that up in week.
Well, we did. So let's talk about that and some other thoughts from week 17. So Kansas City beat Denver 27-24. I got to tell you, I thought Denver was walking away with that game. To be honest.
Casey was my lock. Oh my God. Close.
So definitely thought that for sure. But this is for the 15th straight time. Yeah. So, whew, like crazy, crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
So the Miami was obviously without Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. New England had, they're alive in the playoffs, like you had
Yep.
just said, because they did win 23-21. Miami's on this weird like 5-game losing streak, I
Yeah.
think. So, we'll see what happens. I think Mike Glennon is playing for them this weekend. So
I know that they've brought him in. I guess that would have to be if Teddy Bridgewater couldn't go, Skylar Thompson couldn't go. I just can't believe that this is like the second time this season where like when Tua was out with that concussion at the beginning of the season, it was like, all right, well, they got Teddy Bridgewater.
right.
And then Teddy Bridgewater comes in for 5 seconds, gets hurt, and then it's Skylar Thompson. And we've literally found ourselves in the same exact scenario. It's just insane to me.
The alert came up on,
and I were saying the other episode, like you can't have 2 quarterbacks on your roster anymore. You have to have 3. Miami has gone through all 3 of them twice. It's insane. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I literally got the Teddy Bridgewater alert on my phone. I was like, is this really happening again?
Again.
Again. Like this is not happening. But yeah, so and as we said before, the Giants are in the playoffs. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm wearing my Landon Collins jersey tonight.
I didn't notice, but hats off. I like it.
Landon Collins had a huge pick 6 to, solidify not just a win, an absolute smackdown, 38-10 over the Indianapolis Colts.
We haven't had games like that at all. So to finally get one
exciting
with the playoff spot on the line, I mean, it was just like it was like a late Christmas gift.
It felt so good. Like the whole game was so exciting. I was at my parents' house that day. So I was watching it with my family and I just looked over to my dad before the game. And I was like, I just want to actually be winning a game, winning a game, not coming from behind, not like, and I was like, I don't need to be winning by a gazillion points. I just want to be up, and it was just, we were up and it felt so good. So, and like Katie had said before, this is the first time since 2016. So it's been a while. So I don't know what the playoffs look like, but I'm ready to see them again.
Hell yeah.
This is wild. I thought another team was going to clinch it, but Tampa Bay clinched the NFC South. Finally, someone did. So, but they won 30-24 over Carolina. So obviously everyone is out in that division now. So Tampa Bay is in. So listen, Mike Evans completely shit on every fantasy team with 207 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. I know he personally shit on me. My league actually ended up choosing to just, end it after everything that happened. So I did take second place. I had a lot of Bengals players going, but obviously it was the right decision. Yeah. But I still had a long ways to go thanks to Mike Evans.
Right. So maybe it was best.
I think it was best. I did actually win my other league though. So I'm very happy to come out with, I did make money in both. So I'm happy.
Very good. I'm still bad at fantasy football. There's always next year, baby.
Well, I think I finished in last in my other league. So don't worry. That's why you got to join multiple, Katie. You'll find it. So it's fine. You'll find it.
It's good. It's good. I had fun.
All right, so listen, Vegas, QB Jared Stidham didn't play that bad. He had a solid effort, but the 49ers beat them 37-34 in overtime. So they're obviously continuing with him for the rest of the season. Doesn't really matter, but hey, just you do what you do. You do it. And then, so obviously I just said they are not in the playoffs. So the Jets, the Raiders, New Orleans, and Washington were all eliminated from playoff contention in week 17. So we were able to sweep out a lot of characters this past week. So, whew, a lot's going on. I got to tell you, what a way. I can't wait to see what happens this weekend because it's been a season so far.
Yeah, I just want to see that finalized playoff picture. I want to see what time the games are going to be played, what the schedule is going to look like.
I think the times are actually out. Because I had to look at it because next week, I'm nervous because the Giants are
Yeah.
I coach lacrosse now on Saturdays, so I got nervous because my time slot changed. I was like,
Yeah.
oh no.
All I know is that last year, I do remember that the Saturdays, the games were 4-8, and Sunday was 1-4. And then I guess there's still going to be like a Monday.
So you're correct. I think that's exactly what the schedule looks like again this year. So, and I'm hoping, please keep it that, because I swear if the Giants play while I'm not available on Saturday, I will freak out.
You'll have to make yourself available. That's all.
I will. I'll have to.
All right. Well, let's get into our picks for week 18, plus one lock, one upset. As I said before, least favorite week in the NFL season to make picks. But, I kind of did my homework. I tried to see what coaches were saying about playing players and whatnot. So let's give it a whirl. Let's see what we got. Why don't you kick us off?
And I looked into this. So I looked at kind of like all the playoff scenarios. So some of these might be stretches.
Okay.
And just an FYI, people, we're Saturday and Sunday this week.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
All right. So starting off Saturday, I'm going with the Raiders, Jacksonville. Moving into Sunday, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Buffalo, Minnesota, Houston, Miami, New Orleans, Cleveland, Los Angeles, Philly, Arizona, Seattle, Washington, and Detroit. My upset is the Raiders over Kansas City. Okay. And my lock, the win and get in game, my lock is the Jacksonville Jaguars over the Tennessee Titans.
A lock.
I'm locking them. I'm locking them in.
Well, you and I are very opposite this week. We have different. So
let's see.
In week 18, I'm going with Kansas City, Jacksonville winning in, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Buffalo, Minnesota, Houston, Miami, Carolina, Pittsburgh, the Chargers, Philly, San Fran, Seattle, Dallas, and Green Bay. My lock is your upset. Kansas City is fighting for that number 1 seed. They want it. They're playing their game on Saturday. They want to lock that down, and they can against the Raiders. My lock is Kansas City over.
I just like some last week madness.
Yeah, and I get it, but and this is one where I was like, oh wait, no, KC's no.
And I love teams.
They're playing for the number 1 seed. They're in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed.
But I also love teams that don't have a horse in the race anymore and come in and they're like, F you to all.
Yeah, they're there to play upset, and they're there. They're also there to end their season on a high note with a win. Yep. So I get it. My upset is going to be Houston over Indy. Neither team is playing for anything, but they're both going to be playing whoever they're playing.
Right.
And, I'm going to go with Houston.
All right. Cool. We'll see. Final week. We got
final week until we're making playoff picks.
I can't believe that. Yikes.
Oh,
hopefully we're picking the Giants.
I don't want to pick Giants games. Ugh.
Wait, did you pick them last week?
Against Indy. Yes.
Oh, so maybe you should go back and see all of your picks again, because I think you are 50-50. I know you say you jinx them a lot, but I feel like you are
oh, I've definitely picked them to lose many times this season than they.
No, but I think you have picked them to win and they've won. So I don't think you're that I think you're good.
No, it's more so that I just don't want to pick, because I am able to completely take my bias out of it. But then I also don't want Giants fans to be like, you bitch.
Do not trust.
I just don't like it, but we'll do it. We'll do it.
Of course. All righty, so let's get into Housewives. We just have one story for you guys tonight. We're talking about Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Season 4. We've got a rumored cast here. I know. What? I don't even know what Season 3. Oh, that's when they're in Thailand, right?
Yeah, and that's going to be airing soon.
Yeah. That's why I was thrown off by this, because I was like, wait a minute, what the hell is season 3? So we're looking at various reports here. So Bravo has already, curated the cast for the upcoming 4th season of Ultimate Girls Trip. It's looking to feature Orange County's Vicky Gunvalson and Gretchen Rossi, Atlanta's Phaedra Parks and Eva Marcel, Beverly Hills, Brandy Glanville and Camille Grammer, and New Jersey's Caroline Manzo and Jacqueline Larita. So if you kind of like, obviously we see like Caroline and Jacqueline in here. I think that's a good little mix here. We've got Vicky coming back. So very interesting. So they've all had like their own little like twists to them. So this one is rumored to be like another ex-wives one, which is like interesting, I feel, because like obviously Caroline and Jacqueline aren't, but whatever.
They mean ex-wives by like ex-housewives. Like
I thought last season.
I thought so too when it was ex-wives. Like, oh, is it just all divorced women? Ex-wives, as in none of them are currently on franchises anymore.
That makes a lot more sense, because I feel like the one with Dorinda at Bluestone Manor, they're all single, the women. Obviously, Dorinda's not divorced, but like all the other, I think that was like the sense there, but makes much sense. So, and yes, in season 2, again, they were all like not on it as well. Right. So 4 returning women from previous Girls Trip seasons and 4 new women. So fans are already calling out Bravo and, for recycling cast members instead of bringing new women on. Brandy is on season 2. And like I said, like, cause she's annoying. I don't like her. So here are some of the complaints that we've seen. Not being happy that Vicky is coming back because she was boring in season 2. Almost ruined the show and not being happy that Bravo keeps trying to push Brandy Glanville back on everyone. Yes, that is my argument there. And I think like I liked what they were doing too, though. Like I get it, like recycling people, but they're doing it again, kind of what they did in the first season, like pairing up. They're doing like 2 people from each. So that might get a little difficult, especially if they are going for women that aren't on it anymore. If that's what they want to be the ultimate goal for this, like, I don't know.
Well, if they want to keep going with this show, which clearly they do, and they're like keeping them out like just one after the other, we knew that eventually the women were going to get recycled. So I think at this point, in order to keep it fresh, it's just about pairing new people with new women from the other franchises.
Right.
So like, yes, we've seen Vicky before, we've seen Brandy before, but we haven't seen them with these pairs of women.
Right.
So it is like new, it is kind of like new cast members meeting up with new cast members for the first time.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we knew this was bound to happen. You're eventually going to run out of women. There's some ex-wives that you just know are never going to get this phone call. Like there's a reason they were ex-wives.
Of course.
They were boring originally.
Right.
And they're just completely forgotten at this point. So like I said, we knew that it was going to get recycled. There's only so many people that they would bring back for this. It's just about pairing them with new women. And honestly, I think the locations are going to play like a huge factor in keeping it fresh and exciting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that, apparently there are 4 different potential locations. So we'll have to see what those are. And then season 3, like we had just mentioned before, we're looking at it on Peacock in early 2023. So shockingly enough, we're already in early 2023. So we'll see when it comes. And they're in Thailand. So that's super cool. But yeah,
we're going to get that. We're going to get New Jersey.
New Jersey. Just get it here. Get it.
We're ready. We are ready.
I'm so ready.
But let's get into our game for the night. It is football related. And I know we are talking so much about the playoffs, the upcoming playoffs, this episode. But for those teams that are not in the playoffs, they've already been eliminated. We're going to look ahead. This game is called Forget the Draft and Remember These Free Agents. So we played this game the last 2 seasons, and we are at it again. With the regular season coming to a close this weekend, several teams who did not make the postseason will start looking toward the draft and free agency for 2023. Giants fans We know what that's like. So we're going to take a look at all of the available 2023 free agents, and we're going to give you our top 3 available for the following positions. We're looking at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, any offensive lineman, any defensive lineman, linebacker, corner / safety, and kickers. So lot of names, and some positions I found had more enticing options in free agency than others. I'm just gonna throw it out there right now. I thought the wide receiver class was pretty weak. For
offensive linemen were weak.
I thought running back was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So, if you're not in the playoffs, if you're already looking to the postseason and you're looking at free agents, let's hope the positions that you need to kind of round out your team to become a playoff team. Let's hope you don't need wide receivers or, like you said, who'd you say, offensive linemen?
Yeah, I got to tell you guys, I struggled with offensive linemen. Okay. So full transparency, no one is able to make fun of my selections. I had a really hard time.
I like my top 2 guys a lot. I think they're not only 2. Like
I feel like it's definitely a hard class to look at going into
It is, but I'm just going to say my top 2 offensive linemen that I picked, I like them as top free agents across the board at any position. So
hopefully we agree. So I feel less bad about myself.
All right. Well, let's start off with the most important position on the football field. Let's take a look at quarterback. Right. Usually most seasons, there's not a ton of starting quarterbacks to grab at. This year was a little bit different. Wow. Who do you have your top 3 quarterback free agents?
All right. And yes, and I'm going from 1 to 2. So I'm giving you my best to.
Yes.
It's not worse.
In order. Yep.
It's not worse. So coming in at number 1, I put Lamar Jackson as number 1 for me. Number 2, based off his play this season, I'm putting Geno Smith in my number 2 spot. And number 3, I'm putting Jimmy Garoppolo. Without anyone throwing daggers at the computer screen or your mobile phone, I did not put Tom Brady in here for a reason. He is old. I am over it, and I'm sorry. That is it. Those are my explanations for that. I know he's the GOAT. He is, guys. We all know it. I couldn't. I can't.
Mm-hmm. I've got Lamar Jackson at number 1. He's probably the top overall free agent across the board.
I think so as well.
At number 2, I don't care how old he is. If you have a chance to bring in Tom Brady for a season and contend for a Super Bowl, you're going to do it. So I can't. At number 2, and I do have Geno Smith at number 3.
Yeah.
So Geno, going into a year where he's
good for you.
Off season where he's going to be a free agent, and he had this kind of season that he did. He proved himself as a starting quarterback in the National Football League.
Seattle's got to take him back because people are knocking on that door, 100%.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with him, but I think he's definitely deserving, and he ended up on both of our lists, so good for him. Let's go over to what I thought was a really heavy free agent class here. We're going at running backs. Who are your top 3?
Yeah, so I definitely looked at all 3 of them and other potentials as well, lot in this one. But what I came down to was number 1, I put Saquon Barkley. Number 2, Josh Jacobs, and 3, Miles Sanders.
Okay, at number 1, I am also going with Saquon Barkley. At number 2, I really like this guy. It sucks to say because he plays for the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm going to go with Tony Pollard.
I do really like Tony Pollard. Yeah,
I like him a lot. And I think this season, it opened up a lot of people's eyes to be like, wow, I like Tony Pollard better than I like Ezekiel Elliott.
And I think, Katie, you and I have liked him more than Zeke for a while now.
Yeah, but I think this season was really that sealed it for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then number 3, I'm also going to throw Josh Jacobs into the mix.
Oh, look at that. You're turning a corner with Josh Jacobs.
I can eat my words. I shit talked him so hard.
He's having a good season.
Yeah, he's having a good season.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to, I'll leave it at that.
It's okay to just leave it at that. He's having a good season.
Yep. All right, let's look at wide receivers again. I thought this was, you had to reach a little bit. So I'm going to interested to hear yours. Who do you got?
Number 1, I'm going with Jacoby Myers. Number 2, Alan Lazard, and number 3, Juwan Johnson.
He's a tight end.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, my bad.
New Orleans.
My bad. So again, I mean, whatever. So I can look up my other wide receivers here.
Well,
so.
I do feel like you left out my number 2 guy.
Wait, hold on. Don't tell me. Hold on. I'm going to do this real quick. I'm literally, you know what it is too? We're looking at that tracker and I shit you not, I probably didn't update it properly. You can go. I'll take this L for sure.
Well, we've agreed on all of our number 1 picks so far for all these positions. So I'm also going with New England's Jacoby Myers. At number 2, like, I know he's not as, like, the name isn't as sexy as it was when he first entered the league. But when I tell you that this is like a weak class, he definitely still deserves this number 2 spot. I'm going with Kansas City's Juju Smith-Schuster. And 3, I'm going with Green Bay's Alan Lazard.
Well, you know what? I'm going to call that Juwan Johnson is listed as a wide receiver on some places and he's not on others. So I'm an idiot. I just should know that he's a tight end.
Well, he's not even in my tight end ranking, but
he's not in my tight end ranking.
Well, obviously. All right.
Whatever. You know what? New Orleans uses players all over the field, so I don't care. Whatever. I'll take the L on that one. So
let's go into the tight end position. Who do you have?
Well, now I don't even want to do the rest of the show, to be honest. Now I hope these people are tight ends. So I'm kidding. Number 1, I'm going with Mike Gesicki. Number 2, I'm going with Dalton Schultz. Number 3, I'm going with Austin Hooper.
Okay. This is where our order switches up. Number 1, I'm going with Dallas's Dalton Schultz. Number 2, I'm going with Jacksonville's Evan Ingram. I mean, I did call him my honorable mention for the Pro Bowl last week, so I have to stick with what I said.
I refuse.
And at number 3, I'm going with Miami's Mike Gesicki. I got to be honest, though, Mike Gesicki I thought was really disappointing this year, but I think it was more so the fact that, like, there are way too many weapons in Miami. I'd almost like to see, like, with free agency, I'd like to see Mike Gesicki end up on a different NFL roster this offseason.
That's what I want too. He is one of the more talented tight end. That's why this season was so frustrating to watch because I know he's better than that.
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both at like 1,500 receiving yards. How many yards does that leave for anybody else? Nothing.
Yeah.
So, I want to see him end up on a different roster because he is very talented. All right, let's look at offensive linemen. This, of course, could be any offensive lineman. So an offensive tackle, a guard, or a center. Who are your 3 that you were going with?
Well, I think I gave all 3 here. I could be wrong, though. All right, so number 1, I'm going with Orlando Brown Jr., number 2, George Font, and then number 3, Ethan Posick. Sorry, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
All right. I'm going with, at number 1, I'm going with Kansas City tackle Orlando Brown. I believe that he's maybe a top 5, if not top 10 overall free agent.
Yeah.
I love this guy at number 2. I think you left him out. San Fran tackle Mike McGlinchey.
Mm-hmm.
And at number 3, I'm going with Tennessee guard Nate Davis.
So with the guard from Tennessee, I think it's very much so that they are going to take him. Like, it's not like he is a free agent technically, but I think he's still on his franchise tag. Well, he's still very much
playing the game this way. I like to think that the New York Giants are also taking back Saquon Barkley, but they
are.
I'm putting all these names up for grabs, like they can be taken.
No, I know. I was just playing devil's advocate because when I was doing a lot of my research for this game, that was the number 1 guy of if they're gonna take someone back, it's 100% him. So,
all right. Well, let's look at defensive linemen. This could be an edge rusher or a defensive tackle. So, who do you have?
Yeah, now that I'm looking at I kind of want to switch my list up a little bit here. All right, so number 1, I'm going to go with Dalvin Tomlinson. Breaks my heart. Number 2, I'm going with Yannick Ngakoue, and number 3, I'm going to go with Fletcher Cox.
don't let it break your heart. He's going to be a free agent. Maybe we'll bring him back.
I would die. No, it breaks my heart that he's doing so great. And he's so good. And I knew it. We all knew it. He did great things for the Giants. I just miss him so much.
It was like a James Bradbury situation. Like, we can't keep everybody. Like, it just was, if they could, they would. It had nothing to do with them as players. It just, you have to pay those specific players big money. So
I know.
Number 1, I'm going with Philly defensive tackle Javon Hargrave. Number 2, I'm going with New Orleans edge rusher Marcus Davenport. And at number 3, I am going with Minnesota defensive end Dalvin Tomlinson.
Dalvin.
Let's go over to linebackers. Who do you have?
All right, coming in number 1, I have Roquan Smith. Number 2, Caden Ellis. And 3, Rashaan Evans.
All right. At number 1, I agree with you. I'm going with Baltimore's Roquan Smith. At number 2, I'm going with Tampa Bay's Levante David. And number 3, I'm going with Tennessee's David Long. Corner safety position. It could be a cornerback or a safety. Who are your top 3?
I had a little fun with this one. So number 1, I'm going with Donovan Wilson. Number 2, I threw in James Bradbury. We've been seeing a lot from him this season. And number 3, I actually gave some love to Julian Love on the New York Giants here. So looking at everything from all of these players, he stood up there, not like high above, like, killing everyone else, but I really liked it there.
I think
had a little fun.
I think this is not a bad position to need this offseason. I felt like there were some good names out there.
Yeah.
Number 1, I am going to go with Philly cornerback James Bradbury. At number 2, I really like this player. I'm going with Buffalo safety Jordan Poyer. And number 3, I'm going with Cincinnati safety Jesse Bates. All right, let's finish with last but not least, let's look at kickers. There were good names there too. Not that that's such a huge focus for NFL teams, but I liked what was out there. If you happen to need a kicker, with Mr. Graham Gano,
I'm happy with him.
Have with your top 3 kickers?
I gotta say, I strictly went off percentages here. So these top 3 guys are your top 3 guys if you're kicking field goals, people. Number 1, I went with Eddie Pinheiro. Number 2, Matt Gay, and number 3, Brett Maher. So they are your highest guys here. And you know what really stunned me? I didn't realize this. Do you know Matt Gould is 44 years old or 40?
Robbie Gould.
Oh, Robbie Gould. Sorry. Why? I was thinking Matt. Never mind. I was thinking Matt.
I definitely knew that. Yeah, I definitely knew he was.
So he's a great kicker. I got to tell you. But when I saw that age, I completely nixed him from my.
No, I mean, he's that's a kicker. You get up there in age. It doesn't matter.
I nixed it.
He's still
I pulled him.
A good kicker in the league.
I pulled him.
I actually have the same 3 players, just in a different order. This one guy, my first guy was my honorable mention for Pro Bowl. I am going with Dallas's Brett Maher. 2, I'm going with the Rams' Matt Gay, and 3, I'm going with Carolina's Eddie Pinheiro.
Yeah. All right. It's good. I always love looking at free agency because you're right.
I'd love to have Mr. Bradbury back. I'd love to have Mr. Tomlinson back.
Oh my God.
But of course, I know that the Giants' focus is going to be on, Saquon Barkley. Of course, what they're going to end up doing with Daniel Jones, maybe a potential franchise tag there. I don't know, but we don't have a lot of cap space. It'll be maybe a quiet off season for us and just locking down some of the players we already have.
And we don't have a bad draft again. We actually have okay real estate going into this draft. So I feel pretty confident.
That also depends on how far we can go in the playoffs. So
right. That first round might be a little sucky, but we did get the picks with Kadarius Toney. And we do have a couple of things from last season as well. So prior to the first round, we've got some real estate. So I feel pretty confident there. My bold prediction going into whatever happens, I think they actually franchise tag Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones gets the contract. So those are my bold predictions for moving into the next couple of weeks. So,
okay.
All right, it's that time of the episode where we get it off our chest. Positive, negative, football, housewives, wine, life, the fact that it's already January 4th. The last week of NFL regular season is here. Katie, what do you have for us tonight?
I could have done this last week, but now I'm following it up with something else that I'm totally going to rip on them for too. The Washington Commanders are just so dumb, in my opinion. Just truly, truly, truly dumb. You know, they were going into the game against us, that last game against us, like we both were in the same exact position. Like, Washington is officially eliminated, but they could have been the New York Giants. Like they could have been us. And the playoffs were very much attainable for them. And they go into week 17. Carson Wentz is now healthy. And they decide to go with him over Taylor Heineke. When Caitlin and I both saw that, we were like, good. Good for, do it. Because that's the dumb, dumb move. And obviously, we are not Washington Commander fans. So, Carson Wentz to me is not the guy anywhere. I've been done with Carson Wentz many moons ago. Mm-hmm. When he was the starter this season, he did whatever, ends up getting hurt. Taylor Heineke comes in. I thought the team was substantially better with Taylor Heineke, and it proved with their record. They started off slow. Then they remember, like when we had to pick in a game like Washington or the Giants, I'm like, well, we're trending downwards.
I got nervous. Yeah.
With Taylor Heineke, they were trending upwards. Why would you get off of that? Why would you go back to the guy that, you weren't as successful with? I don't care what his name is. I don't care what their resumes overall in their careers have looked like. You keep going with Taylor Heineke. So that made absolutely zero sense to me. And then we felt that way last week when we heard the decision. And then the proof was in the pudding when Carson Wentz played this past weekend and sucked up the joint. So
ugly.
And then we see Ron Rivera this is the other thing I want to rip on them into. We see Ron Rivera do his post-game interviews, and basically one reporter is like, well, if you officially get eliminated after these 4 p.m. games, are you going to consider playing Sam Howell, who they drafted this, not high, but they drafted him. And Ron Rivera was like, he paused, looked very freaking confused, and then was like, we can be eliminated after the 4 p.m. games? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, then I guess we'll see about that. And by the way, they're going to be playing Sam Howell this weekend, but that was up to a reporter to put that idea into Ron Rivera's head. I mean, come on. Like, Ron Rivera, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's a really good coach.
Absolutely.
He has to be with, a shitty franchise like the one. And I'm not talking about like bad, like you get a lot of losses. I'm talking about just like the disgrace of the NFL.
Yeah.
But come on, like, you don't know these scenarios. Maybe if you did, you would have stuck with Taylor Heineke. But like, I don't care. Like, I know that and we said it earlier in the show, these scenarios get really wacky and it involves a lot of things. But I also said, if your team has the potential, understand your team's situation.
You have to.
It does include whether you win or lose and whoever all these other teams win or lose. So to not be aware of the situation and for Ron Rivera to like just be like, oh shit, like we can be eliminated.
Yeah.
I saw that in the come on, man.
Yes, I know.
You know what? I'll end it like that. Come on, man.
No, seriously, come on, man, for sure. Like, and it's not like you're in the hunt. Like, that's what you're in. That's who the Washington. That's what the Giants have been labeled for the last couple of weeks. You need to know this is not guaranteed. This is not everything like that. And it's so silly because I did see him like try to play it off afterwards too. He was like, no, like he was like, I was being like a dick because I didn't like the question. That's not like everyone, you could see reaction. Like
you could see the wheels turning in his head. Like being asked like, oh shit.
Like, what? Like, yes, you guys just lost. Like, you needed to win that game. Like, you don't understand. Like, I even thought it was even more funny, Katie, when Carson Wentz was asked about the interceptions and he asked which one. That's how he already knew. Because they were like, oh, like, so like, I don't know this, what was going on through your head? He was like, oh, wait, which interception? Because he threw like 5 that game. Like, that's just that.
With you, I have no idea what their plan is for quarterback next season. But like, I just really don't think it should be Carson Wentz. I don't think it should be anybody's game plan to use Carson Wentz.
No. I agree. Yeah, I mean, so speaking of game plans, the Giants are entering their final game of the season, but they're also entering in 2 weeks their first playoff game in a very long time, since 2016. So, Katie, the question around the world right now for Giants fans is, what do they do with their starters next week? For this week, this upcoming game against Philly to close out the season this Sunday. We already clinched a playoff game or that spot. So what do we do? Do we sit him? Do we start him? So here's my thoughts. Here's my take on what we do. We have not been to the playoffs since 2016. The last thing, so a lot of these players have never seen a playoff game. I would actually say probably our whole team has never seen a playoff game. Maybe like, I don't know if Graham Gano has ever been to a playoff game.
Sterling Shepard, but he's not in the field, obviously.
So the chances of any player on our field, like, I don't know, like maybe some guys on the sideline, maybe some practice squad guys, but like our main guys have never seen a playoff game. The last thing I think the New York Giants need right now is to actually go into that first week stale. I think we need to play this weekend. I'm very much understanding of how aggressive we've got this Philly team, but they're actually a little banged up too. Gardner Minshew might be starting again this Sunday against us. And we've seen some flaws with that offense with him under gun for them. So I think that.
But then you're playing Philly, right? And you're giving yourself a chance before the playoffs to play a playoff caliber team.
Absolutely.
Potentially the number 1 seed. So it already kind of like, at least the way we felt about like playing Minnesota as late as we did, and that even though they lost, we said it was almost a win because you showed that you could play with a high-end playoff caliber team. So it would be the same situation with Philly.
Absolutely. So my 2 cents on it is that we definitely the starters are playing. I guess, it's up to Brian Daboll about how long he wants to play them. I'm very cool with like at halftime, if you're feeling maybe not great about maybe we're losing or whatever, and you want to pull them, cool. If we have a fighting chance at halftime, we're playing really well. Let's take it quarter by quarter. Let's look to the third quarter. Let's see how things are doing. And again, I think that if you want to pull the starters, I would say midway through the third quarter, if we're not feeling great about a win. Because Katie, not even just playing a playoff caliber team, how great would it be to pull off a W against a division rival? I don't even give a shit if they sit their starter, but because they're still going after something this weekend. They are. They haven't even locked up the NFC East yet.
Right.
I know they want to. So we could be playing the full Eagles roster, probably maybe minus Jalen Hurts. I would keep him out probably. But like, I just imagine pulling off that W going into the playoffs. Whew.
Would be nice. Would be nice.
Lights a nice little fire under some people's asses, I think. That would be nice going in. So I don't agree with sitting the starters right away. I think there's some like players, you look at like a Leonard Williams, maybe you want to give him a little break because he's had some injuries throughout the season. Your kind of main guys, though, like, offensively and defense, and he is a main guy defensively. I don't mean that in any way bad, shape, or form to him. I say you keep them in because I don't want to get stale. I don't need a week off for these guys. We're flying high right now. We're doing good things. And it's not even just that win over Indianapolis. Apparently practice has been looking really good for these guys over the last couple of weeks. So let's keep it going. Even though Christmas Eve was a loss, like you said, we played Minnesota. We were there with them. So great W last week. Let's close out the season properly. And I just say second half, if you're unsure about a W, cool. Pull the starters if you want to. If we're still have a fighting chance, let's look at the third quarter and take it from there.
I think my quick stance on it is I don't know how I feel about it because I can make pros and cons for both scenarios.
Of course.
So the best thing that I can say is I trust Joe Shane and Brian Dable to make the best decision.
I do.
So
and that is
in their hands, and whatever they want to do, I'm cool with.
Yep. And I think that's a very fair point as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a great first kickoff show of 2023. Oh my gosh. We're going to wrap up the regular season. Next time we see you, we will have an official playoff picture. Can't wait for that. But other things you do not want to miss this week. We got Real Housewives of Salt Lake City on tonight at 8. That started at 8. Caitlin, I got to say, in the last 2 days, I've caught up on like 5 episodes of Salt Lake City, and it's picking up.
Okay.
I know that in the beginning when I started to get back into it, I told you, I'm like, I'm not into it. And then it started to like get my attention. Okay. So it's getting better. We got Real Housewives of Potomac on Sunday at 8. NFL Week 18, Caitlin mentioned it earlier. We have Saturday and Sunday games. The Saturday games, KC at Las Vegas at 4:30. And then obviously that big game win and in Tennessee at Jacksonville at 8:15. And then Sunday night football, we have Detroit at Green Bay. There is no Thursday night football. There is no Monday night football. Mm-hmm. And then the college football national championship, we've got number 1 Georgia versus number 3 TCU on Monday at 7:30.
Who would have thought it with those little horned frogs getting into but I must say we didn't talk about it earlier, but listen, those 2 playoff games were crazy. So everyone got the New Year's Eve they wanted to. Literally, Ohio State lost as the ball was dropping. So very bad for them, but they did lose as soon as the clock struck midnight, and it was officially 2023. So, but I'm looking forward to the championship. Obviously, it's a little sad I'm not there, but I am very much looking forward to watching it again this year. So, all right.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week.
We will. And what a different time it'll be going into playoffs next week. But cheers. Thank you guys, as always.
Good night.